You're listening to the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour with Blaze and Ken. And now, Blaze and Ken.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour. I'm Blaze.
I'm Ken.
How you doing?
It's been a fun few weeks, actually. A little crazy, but and I know I apologize for the last episode. Crazy power issues. Couldn't
Listen,
avoid it.
John Brown and I had a great time, so it would have been better if you were there, but we managed, and he was a perfect stand-in for you in your stead there. But today's show
Should I be
is
worried?
very no. Although he is retired, so he might have some more time on his hands. No, but this is a great week. This week, we have a 2-time Emmy Award winner. I'm not going to say much until we intro him, but super excited to introduce him to everybody. He is so brilliant. I feel like he always has his finger on the pulse of everything that's innovation. So I'm just really stoked to have him on and come and chat and share his experiences and maybe get some people inspired and excited. So yeah. Speaking of inspired and excited, how's the week been? What's been going on? I know we have the Super Bowl coming up this
Yeah.
weekend.
I don't know if I'm gonna watch it now. I don't know.
Are you
Yes.
thinking Niners or are you feeling Kansas City?
I'm probably thinking Kansas City.
Yeah. I mean, Kansas City for me because of Andy Reid, that connection with the Eagles and
Yeah.
Philadelphia, obviously. But yeah, I'm probably KC as well. So let's just see what
Yeah.
happens. The Niners are great though, so whoever wins, I'm sure it'll be a good game. Listen, I was watching The Mandalorian. I finally caught up
Oh,
on
that's right. Yes.
everything. I watched
Yes.
Ahsoka. I watched The Mandalorian. I watched the Book of Boba Fett.
So,
And
all right, yeah. So let's start from the beginning with this because I'm
yeah,
curious. I mean, because I've seen all this, and it's fun to talk about this with someone who was just getting into it. What was your take, at least in that first season of The Mandalorian?
I mean, because I had actually watched the first season and I forgot about it. I think maybe I didn't have a Disney Plus subscription, so I just didn't watch the rest. But I went back and watched season 1 again. I mean, I feel like the way that they introduced the characters, I really loved it. And which, by the way, we just lost
Carl Weathers,
Carl
yeah,
Weathers. So
yeah. I
that
was
was
going to bring that
a
up.
big loss. I know we were talking about, deaths with Carl Weathers here, but then today, there's some amazing births as well to talk about. So, and there is a Star Wars connection there. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But no, I actually really enjoyed it a lot. I thought that it really set things up appropriately to move forward and introduce some characters that I wasn't aware of and really enjoyed. And again, like Ahsoka, that whole storyline I wasn't really as familiar with.
That's what I wanted to ask you because that's essentially a continuation of the TV show Rebels, which I loved. It was such a fantastic show.
Yeah.
But how was it, just watching that live action series? I mean, do you feel that it kind of caught you up with where you needed to be in it, or?
I mean, I think so. I have a few questions because I do love backstory and kind of
Mhm.
understanding, especially in the Star Wars universe. There's so much backstory and so much information that I feel like you need to know. However, I did not watch Rebels, so I wasn't super lost, at least throughout, because of some of the flashbacks that they did. I feel like they
Yeah.
really combined everything. I do want to go and watch Rebels next, but how long is that, by the way? Is that a long one?
Is it 3 or 4 seasons? I can't remember.
Okay. All right. Well,
But
that's not
they're
so
like
bad.
12 or 13 episodes a season. They're only like a half hour, so yeah. But
Okay.
they do some really cool, fun stuff with that.
Now, do you have a favorite character in that universe for Rebels, at least?
Um, I like Sabine Wren, the Mandalorian who was in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, I love Syndulla too, the Twi'lek pilot. She had I'm sorry, yeah, Hera. I mean, Hera Syndulla. She
Yeah.
she had a great arc in Rebels too. I mean, they were all good actually. Chopper is probably my favorite droid. Actually, I like him better than R2D2, believe it or not. He's
Really?
he's a little bit more comedic. Um, yeah, it was all fun. My question for you was, how was it getting to the end of the second season of The Mandalorian?
I was a nervous wreck.
They were on the ship. Giancarlo Esposito has all the battle droids, and all of a sudden, a cloaked figure shows up on the cameras.
It was I was a nervous wreck, and had no idea. I didn't have any spoilers, so I had no idea that was going to happen, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant. I texted you.
Yeah.
I was like, "You didn't tell me this. Oh my goodness! Like this is so amazing." Yes,
I
it was.
wasn't I wasn't blowing one of the greatest things that ever happened on TV for you.
Yeah, no, I definitely thought that it was brilliant, and it was unexpected from my perspective, at least, and yeah, I was definitely excited about it, and kind of to see where that could maybe carry forward.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
and even in Ahsoka, the back and forth when she's, I don't want to give too much away in case somebody hasn't seen it, but when um Darth Vader, when
mhm,
Anakin that pops up a lot. That was
yeah.
really cool, and I loved that Christian had a chance to come back and actually like have some fun, because good or bad, whether you liked the
The-
Attack of the Clones and all of those movies, like how
I,
you felt about it. I thought Hayden Christensen, it was good to just see him again in kind of a more, I don't want to say humorous, but he had some good one-liners, and yeah, I enjoyed him in that for
I,
sure,
I
because I know he's a
it,
good actor, so that's
for the
why.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, he did a great movie with Kevin Kline called My Life as a House. If you ever saw it, it's
Yes, I
fantastic.
saw that. It
He
was
was
great.
so good. Um, it's kind of like a redemption thing for Hayden Christensen. Kind of, it's like the little stuff that he's been able to do. They allow him to flesh it out,
Right.
and they kind of give him what they should have done with him from the beginning.
Right.
Um, even Kenobi was pretty good. I had issues with the fact that they allowed Kenobi and Vader to face off, because that changes the timeline in the
Right.
original film. That whole original lightsaber duel with Kenobi and Vader in the first Star Wars. The line even says, the last time we met, I was the student and now I'm the master. I'm like, well,
Right.
apparently not. You guys fought a few years back, so
Right.
yeah, that bothered me.
Right.
But and I think they still have some kinks to work out with the de-aging process in some of those flashbacks. But otherwise, like it's all been pretty solid with him. I thought it's been really great.
Yeah, for sure. So when I mentioned that there was a birthday and it was a connection to Star Wars, today, the 8th of February, is actually John Williams's birthday.
Ah,
Yeah, the
the
great,
maestro himself.
yes, the
I mean,
great,
he's given us
fabulous John Williams.
so many memorable themes over the years.
Hmm.
Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jaws, Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done so much.
I mean, if you think about it, if you go back, especially like to Jaws, at least that instrumental piece saved the movie in a lot of ways, because it gave them a lot of other options of what they could do in the editing process. So without John Williams in that piece, I don't know.
And it
I'd be
just goes to
curious.
it just goes to show the idea of minimalism in a
Right.
film. You weren't able to see the shark that much because it didn't work, and it
Right.
was all implied, and it was all in your head, most of it. And then John Williams' score was just this whole basic da dun da dun, and it was nothing grand. There wasn't anything majorly grandiose about it. Like it was, I mean, like I'm not taking away from the work he did, because there's a lot of great music in it. There's a lot of
Right.
lighthearted riffs that, like, when everyone's like sailing or on the ocean, then there's like comical cues in the music too. Um, but of course, the one thing that most people just think about is the da dun. And again, it's just
Yeah.
so basic, and it's just so scary and impactful. It's crazy.
Yeah. I know that it really did change the way I think a lot of movies did things, especially
Yeah.
back then. So also born on February 8th, we have Nick Nolte, who I feel like my dad resembled Nick Nolte. It was like a cross between Robert Redford and Nick Nolte. So,
Okay.
especially as he got older. James Dean, So great,
Yeah.
James Dean. So I used to have such a crush on James Dean and I mean, obviously I wasn't alive when he was alive. I wasn't around then, but just that classic movie actor, Hollywood movie actor. And he only had 3 movies before he
Right.
died. And I did visit actually his grave site where the car accident, he died in a car accident. But I did get to visit his grave site in California when I was visiting California one time and kind of stopped at the restaurant that's right there. But do you remember the name of the 3 movies that he did?
Well, of course, I think the biggest one was Devil Without a Cause. I mean, Rebel Without a Cause.
Yes, Rebel Without a Cause. That was
Um,
one.
Giant was a great one.
Giant. Yep.
And the last one was, or the other one was East of Eden,
East of Eden.
which I
Correct. Yeah.
never saw. I never got to see that one.
Oh, okay. A couple other people having their birthdays. Jack Lemmon.
Oh, I love Jack Lemmon.
Yeah. And then Jules Verne.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very busy day for, some really good talent to be
Let me
born on
ask you.
that day.
I was a huge Lemon fan. Do you have any favorite movies of his, or because one of my
I
all-time
mean, Some Like
favorites?
It Hot,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know
that,
what? I think I was a fan of a lot more of his later year stuff. Like I
yeah.
loved Glenn Ross. I thought he
Oh,
was
yeah.
fantastic in that. Grumpy Old Men was fun. Well, 12 Angry Men actually. And if I remember correctly, when they remade it back in the 90s, he came back and was in it again.
Who else was in Grumpy Old Men? I'm
Walter
blanking.
Matthau
That's it. Walter Matthau. Yeah.
and Margaret, Sophia Loren. Yeah.
Were they also in Grumpier Old Men?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Sophia Loren, I don't think showed up until like the very end. That was like the surprise at the end. I think if I remember correctly, the first one was the two of them fighting over Anne Margaret,
Right.
and then they introduced Sophia Loren at the very end, and then it's her in the sequel with them.
Right.
So yeah,
And was there a grumpiest old man?
I don't think so.
I think it
Uh,
ended at grumpier. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, the box office on those were so good. The reception was so good. They probably were. But I'm sure it had to do with Walter Matthau's health by that point because
Right.
he was, pretty rough by that second movie. Actually, I mean, you could see him walking. It was kind of hard
Right.
to not notice.
Yeah.
But
I think wasn't that around the time? I'm not sure year wise but I remember like those movies that featured the old guys like Cocoon.
oh
And,
yeah,
if you remember, Cocoon was a great movie. Like there was
yeah,
just a lot of really good, solid movies that featured the older guys
Cocoon,
that were still great.
batteries not included.
Yeah.
Again, Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy vehicles for both of them. My Fellow Americans, I think, was the one
Oh,
with Mathau and Lemon again. I think they brought them back together. They did a bunch together back in the 90s, late 90s. Like that was like
right.
a incredible duo, and all based on the fact that The Odd Couple was such a great movie. You know?
Right. Yep, absolutely. Well, listen, I'm excited because I see that our guest has joined. So I am
Yes.
super proud to welcome 2-time Emmy Award winner, cinematographer, inventor, and friend, Alan Teitel. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Blaze.
Hi.
My
And this
good.
is my
Oh,
partner,
look at
Ken,
this
my co-host,
wine
Ken here.
already.
How's it
I'm still
going?
on coffee.
It's
Oh,
5 o'clock somewhere, Al.
Yeah.
indeed, it is. I can never object to a good cocktail at any point.
All right,
Love it, love it.
so I'm curious because Blaze during the intro said that you guys have been friends. I'm curious, how did you guys wind up meeting?
Oh boy, I tell you what, that's a funny little story.
It is.
I was working with another friend of mine in the city, and Blaze had reached out to him about a project that was going to happen in Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
and they were going to do a major renovation of the
Mecca.
Mecca. Thank you.
Mecca.
Of Mecca, and they wanted someone from the States to film it. Being that neither of us were Muslim, it presented an interesting challenge.
I can
And
imagine.
so I came up with a process, and this is way back, of using some drones to do it. And we moved quite far along on the project, but at the end of the day, it seemed like it might be a better idea for them to have some people that could actually walk through and do it. But this went all the way to the King of Saudi Arabia, who was involved in it, and it was one of those projects that so many cinematographers, well, at least I, come this close to doing. It's like I've done some wild and crazy stuff around the world, but that was an almost that was one for the record.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, and Ken, you've known me for a while, and I've never mentioned that project because this was when I was very first starting out. A guy from Egypt that I knew that's an architect in the city in New York City, Hosni. He had reached out and said, "Hey, we have this opportunity." He was from Egypt originally. He's like, "I trust not a lot of people, but I trust you, Blaze. If you could put this together." And I was so green and at the beginning, but I was so lucky to have met Kieran, who was our contact between me and Alan. And when he introduced me to Alan, I felt so much better. It was like, whew, because Alan had so much experience and I knew could just take this project, and all I would be the face of just the introductions. And that was pretty much it. Because most likely I wasn't going to be going to Saudi Arabia. Everybody was already teasing me like, you're going to end up getting kidnapped or something. So I was like, yeah, I probably won't be involved in it. But I remember that Alan and I had talked about it, gotten closer during that time. And I had learned so much about him, and kind of we've kept in touch in and off, on and off throughout the years since then. So wild though that that we're meeting back up this way online, because I haven't seen you in a while. So
it
it's
has
great.
been a day or two.
Yes, it has. So I'm seeing the Emmy in the background there. Super. I'm so glad that it's right there. So this way we can talk about it. So
It just happened to be there.
Just, it kind of lives there. I wind up doing more than one or two calls a week, and sometimes it's just easier to sort of put it there rather than go, you know what I got?
Here it is.
Yeah. I've done that once or twice.
for a family, right?
Right, exactly.
So tell everybody what you won the Emmy Awards for.
Oh, well, way back when my entry into the entire business was kind of funny in that my dad was working with a producer director here locally that got a job to do the Winter Olympics. And I was trading commodities and doing all kinds of things. Last thing I was involved in or planned on being involved in was television production. But I was a tinkerer. I could take anything apart and put anything together again. And that's what they wanted. And so they invited me to be part of this team for the Olympics. And I said no. And they said yes. And I said no. And finally he said, well, how much would it cost? I want to hire you to do it. I came up with a number. I figured it was twice what he'd ever think of paying. And he went, okay. And so I was instantly brought in as part of this Olympic team. And we came up with a new camera. And the idea was that they wanted us to get shots like no one had ever seen. So we laid out the concept of having a camera where we took the chip and the lens away from, we would have that here, and then we would spread out and have all the electronics on a wire somewhere else. And everyone said it couldn't be done. It couldn't be done. We finally found a manufacturer that said, yeah, we can do it. And it was a question of how much and how fast. And our first helmet cam cost $1.2 million.
Wow.
Whoa.
And that was for the 1988 Winter Olympics. We went back to the network and we said, it's going to be a little pricey. And they said, go ahead, but get 4 of them. But the first one was 1.2. The other 3, they were only 100,000 a piece.
Prototypes,
Yeah,
exactly. The first one's always tough. So now I go out for my first broadcast television experience, And we get there, and we spent 3 months up in Calgary for the '88 Winter Olympics, and we filmed every event and every venue. And we were a 5-man team, and when I needed to test something on the ski slopes, they had to turn on the lifts so that I could then ski wherever I wanted. It was amazing having that kind of power, and we got some amazing footage.
So real quick,
Yeah,
before I didn't mean to cut you off, but how good
sure.
of a skier are you, or were you going into it?
I was a borderline expert.
Okay, I hope so.
I'd been a skier since I was knee high, so I could ski, but I was not a racer. We get home. Now, I did every alpine event. I did the men's downhill, the slaloms, not very well, not very fast, but testing them out. And then we had live cameras on forerunners, the guys in front, and we did pre-recorded pieces, and we did a lot of pieces also in film. So we get home, and they say, you were nominated for an Emmy. Nah, you're pulling my leg. No. The unit was nominated. Okay, great. They told me many times before I would believe them. We said, rent a tux. We're going into the city for dinner. Yeah, okay, sure. Rent a tux, and we go into the city, and here we go into this room, and we sit down, and we have dinner, and they announce our names. I went, it's a pretty good job. Maybe I should stick with it.
There you go.
So that was my entrance into the business and my first Emmy.
Well, I learned 2 lessons from this story already.
Uh-oh.
Always have a tailor on hand, apparently.
Yep.
And secondly, always go higher than you actually think you're actually going to make when pitching a job.
Exactly.
It's funny. You can always go down. You can never go up.
That's true. I have a saying that I always say, dream bigger than you think you deserve. So I might change that to ask for more than you think you deserve.
Yeah. Much later in my career, I learned that I had a couple clients that I really didn't like, and they were demanding and pushing. And so every time they came back to me with a job, I kept raising the price 30-40% each time. and they would complain, but they'd come back. And all I was trying to do was get rid of them. And it took a while before I could raise the price enough to finally make them go somewhere else.
Right.
What'll it take?
Yeah, but
yes.
that was.
And then the second Emmy, because I know you were nominated 6 times, right?
Yeah. The second Emmy was for the '92 Winter Olympics, and there we were, instead of doing it with video cameras, we did everything in a pre-production mode, and we shot everything in film. And
oh, wow.
So everything we did was in 16 millimeter. But if I don't want to bore people with technical detail of it, but the idea was we the highest quality you could get was, of course, 35 millimeter film is what feature films are done. And then we worked in Super 16, which is still amazing. And compared to video, it's just crazy. But what happened was we then had to take it from New York, change it over to PAL, which is a different format of TV, from Europe, send it up to a satellite, so it got compressed again. Then it came down, it got recorded. Then it went up like 30 or 40 miles of copper to the broadcast center, and then they reversed it and brought it all the way back here. By the time the picture got to air here in the States, it was such a muddy picture. But everyone was oohing and eyeing, and I went, okay.
Can I ask a question, though? Like, the logic of actually shooting a live event on film? Like traditionally, I mean, you want it live, so video is the way to go. Like, where did the idea for doing film come from?
We weren't doing live for
Okay.
the Olympics. What we were doing is they were behind the scenes shooting. So we were doing explainer videos for each of the sports.
So packages, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So it was all prepackaged stuff, and it was pretty amazing. I mean, we got to work with some of the greatest, and that was fun.
It had to be challenging as hell too.
Yeah.
You know, so many times we would do like the extreme skiing, and you were asking what kind of a skier I was. When you see like some of the skiers going down these incredible ravines and off a cliff into this deep powder, and the wonderful, wonderful images, right?
Yeah.
But what you don't get to see or get to know is the crew, because we had 100-pound pack on our back, and we had to climb down over the rocks because we weren't allowed to make any divots into the beautiful snow. So we never got the easy way down.
That should be an Olympic sport in and of itself, right?
Indeed, it should. And I mean, the group I worked for, and then my later career, we did some crazy things and nutty things. I had one particularly bad year. I was hospitalized 8 times for on set accidents, digging up my hand or head or shoulder, knee. I mean, I've been busted up and rebuilt so many times.
Oh my goodness.
And it was fun. We would dive with sharks, dive with alligators. It was like, the common question was, can you? And before they would say you out of your mouth, we would be saying yes. We'd figure it out later.
I hope with the whole accident issue too, like insurance didn't become a problem as you progress later on too.
That never did become an issue, fortunately.
Yeah.
Before we had all these detailed computer records of everything.
That's true. That's a good
I'm
point.
sure these days I would be considered a very high risk.
So, Alan, I want to talk a little bit about UltraSlo.
Okay,
You
great.
want to explain?
So yeah, one of the things that I started telling you that I was a tinkerer, and that's what got me into the whole television production concept. And I'm always looking at showing and looking at things in a different way. So I would go out and find technologies that really didn't apply and change them and apply them. So what I did was I went out into the world of machine analysis, and I found a camera that would shoot at up to 500 frames a second, but it was in a small square with a gray box around it. And I then managed to match high-end broadcast optics, and I built all kinds of contraptions to match the camera to high-end optics. And I was able to shoot these amazing things that people hadn't seen before. So UltraSlo was sort of born slowly, and there was this thing that started. It was a little thing on the internet. They called it where you could upload films and videos to. YouTube.
That little thing.
That little thing,
little thing. And I was one of the early channels there, and at one point I was like in the top 20 of the science and technology channels. A lot of my videos are still up there. I have hundreds of videos there. And I became very popular and was sharing quite a bit. And so it set me off on a whole nother part of my career I built a studio where I was shooting the slow motion videos, doing all kinds of things. And then I started doing commercials and everything. I worked with the company that has now the definitive top of the line slow motion cameras. They're the Phantom cameras. Well, I went to the brothers that had that company and said, the network wants us to make a color camera. They said, but we only make black and white cameras. So I drew out on a napkin basically, and we took 3 black and white cameras and put them on a big chunk of aluminum plate. It was almost 4 by 4 feet. And then we put a big lens and then some prisms. And so we broke the light up into the 3 different components, the R, G, and B, into 3 cameras, and then recorded that and then put it back together. And that was the first color slow motion at 500 frames a second.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
Incredible.
it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
But the, the networks all at the time, they only wanted 3-chip cameras. But here I had a 1-chip camera, and the camera was $250,000, and I had a $25,000-$30,000 lens that I put on it. And I started working at CBS as a consultant there for the slow motion. They had a big lab for me, and I had all kinds of machinists. It was a lot of fun. But it was all my own project, and it was all my own thing. And so through a friend of mine, he had connections with the Mets. And so when I wanted to test the camera for sports, I had an open invitation to go to the Mets. So I went there, and I'm setting up as the low home camera. And I had also done a couple of TV shows with Tim McCarver, and I knew him pretty well. And he was up calling the shots, and the first inning went, and I couldn't get anything. I couldn't get the camera set up. It wasn't working. The second inning, finally, in the middle of the third inning, I get the camera set up. And the first pitch I get from the low home camera, batter takes a swing, hits the ball just sort of in the middle of the handle, and the bat breaks. The very first shot.
Wow.
Tim goes nuts. And here I am going back and forth, shuttling this shot back and forth, because unfortunately it was not a production camera, it was a scientific camera. So all the controls are in the camera. So now here I am in a union building, in a union shop, on a union show, and I'm not union. And I am running my cables, setting up my camera, shooting, and doing playback. Boy, did I piss off a lot of people.
I was going to say, you must have been really popular.
Oh, my God. And so politically, I was never really adept at doing a lot of these things. And so I think my biggest problem career-wise was that I didn't fit into a category.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would direct, I would shoot, I would produce my own stuff. And so, how many unions can you join? Well, you're not allowed to. And so it became a rather sticky wicket for me,
Mm-hmm.
which was good and maybe not so good.
I definitely never think of Alan staying in his own lane.
No, my problem is I can't even stay on one highway.
Aren't you allowed to just kind of pass it off as, yeah, I'm just a freelancer?
On some jobs, yeah. On others, no. The way that we did it many times was that no one else could do the job.
Right.
And so, excuse me, I have just an itch. So, Yeah, the difficulty was that if no one else could do it, I had I'm sure you're familiar with in television production with the jibs, the cranes.
Mhm.
And we had the production company that I worked for, we bought Jimmy Jibs serial number 0001. And we took it out on a shoot that we were doing on a boat in going off the Bahama Banks for 2 weeks with Elle McPherson. She was a okay looking young lady.
Just
And
a little bit.
You know.
And yeah, I was married at the time, so I couldn't say anything other than that. My comments are a little more colorful now. And we had Matt Biondi, the Olympic swimmer, and Peter Horton, who was he was on a show called 30 something way back then.
Yes.
And we took the three of them out, and part of the show we did was we took this jib on the front of this 100-foot boat that we were staying on, and we did a music video on the boat, rolling decks at sea, underway, and no one's ever done that before. And then I also had built a keyboard so that the keyboard player could play it underwater, and I mean it was quite a production. So we had this jib, and word got out when we got back that this was a really cool tool and people should start looking at it. And I got a call from one of the soap operas, and I went down and did a demo for them. So I set it up, and I roll this thing in, and I set up the tripod, and someone hits me on the back and says, "No, that's my job." Okay. And so I'm running out the cables, and now that's my job. By the time I was done, I had 6 guys standing behind me, and I'm setting up this jib on a flat floor in a studio, nothing moving, nothing doing anything. And it took all of these guys to do it. So it was fun. It was interesting, but my politics mode just never really kicked in quite that well.
Right.
But that show was interesting. The show that we had done was called Dolphins, Whales, and Us. And we went around the world diving with dolphins and whales with us. And it was amazing, the things that we got to see and the things we got to do. But part of the footage that we used in this show was undercover footage that was done on some of the tuna fishing boats where they were killing all the dolphins.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
And they were slaughtering millions of dolphins. And so as the show was coming up to air, and word had gotten out that we were using this footage, some of the tuna industry people had threatened to sue us to keep the show off the air because they didn't want that footage seen. And this went back and forth, and our group finally came back and said, "Listen, pick a number of lawyers, any number of lawyers. We'll see your lawyers and raise you one, but the show's going on the air." 3 days before the show, we get a call, and it was from the industry representatives, and they say, "We're going to announce this new fishing technique with some changes to the nets to let the dolphins out." When you look at a can of tuna fish and you see there's the dolphin safe insignia, that dolphin is jumping over my head. We took a frame from one of our shots and made that in the logo for the insignia, and every can of tuna has that logo on it.
That is
And
great.
Wow.
we
That's
saved
amazing.
millions of dolphins through that show.
Well, listen, I want to know what's going on for you now. So what are you working
Yeah.
on now? Because we talked about kind of what you did before and up through, because there's so much. And I was telling Ken before that, you're an innovator. You have all of these new things and new ideas. So I kind of want to know what you have going on now.
Or what you're allowed to tell us.
Yeah, what you're allowed to tell us. Exactly.
That's another one of my problems. They say loose lips sink ships. Well, the bottom of the ocean is full of ships I've sunk. I started telling you about some of the small cameras, and I took it to another extreme. And this is a camera that I had made, which competed with the GoPro. And unfortunately, I had a lot of Chinese technology that was in it that was supported by U.S. technology. And when Trump started the trade war with China, he put my company out of business because they could no longer use the U.S. technology that my camera was based on. I have now circled back, and I'm coming back into developing a new camera system that I'm working with. And again, starting with my concept of taking technology off the shelf. And this is a 3D scanning system where we can have someone step into the center of this circle of cameras. Right now, we use over 100 cameras in the circle, and we can scan and create a 3D model. Now, big deal. What do you do with a 3D model? There are a whole bunch of places that we can go. I think that you can see on my TikTok channel. I think it's Silly to Science. I have a dancing avatar where I'm wearing a jacket, actually, that's made with my fractal art, and it's doing a dance, or I'm doing a dance. Now, that's all fun and good. But the next thing that we can do in a B2B world is that we're looking at working with some fashion brands where we'll be able to take and create their entire catalog in 3D and AR, so that we're basically gamifying the shopping experience, which will be a lot of fun. And it'll work with, the new Apple glasses that they're making a big show out of. So we're getting there. Now, we're also looking at taking that and putting it into a brick and mortar store where we'll be able to have kids come in, or parents and grandparents. And what we do are a couple different levels. One is that we can just provide a 3D scan and make a 3D model of them. And it's great for kids to give grandparents, or grandparents to give the grandkids, or parents and kids. You figure out the combination or permutation, but it makes for a great gift. On the higher end, we can even take it into bronze castings, so that we can do that. And in production, we can create the avatars for people that want to start doing their own animated films. So it becomes a pretty wide-ranging tool. Now, I am in the process of working on several patents, that will bring this technology into sports and sports world, where we're going to have some innovation and innovative things that we can do with avatars and 3D sports, which That I can't tell you, or I'd have to shoot you.
So fascinating. That is your TikTok, right? That I just put up, UltraSlo
Yes.
Silly to Science.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good. I definitely think people should go check that out for sure for all of the latest and greatest. Are you pretty regular poster of things or?
I haven't been. I've been pretty negligent in that, and I'm starting to try and put up some more content.
Good.
And as I start getting back, unfortunately, I had to take a little bit of a hiatus. I was hit pretty hard with COVID. It's taken about 2 years to get myself back into shape. So my beard, you see, is getting a little bit long. The story behind the Santa Claus was that it's about 15 years ago. My mom had ovarian cancer, real nasty ovarian cancer. She just celebrated her 92nd birthday not long ago.
Wow. God bless her.
So the story has a happy ending.
Yeah.
But while I was with her in the hospital, so many kids would look up because my hair was a shambles and my beard was a little bit long. And I mean, the last time I shaved down to my chin was March 22nd, 1979. And so I looked sort of Santa-ish, and I got all these kids to smile. And it was so good. So after that, for a number of years, I would go to the hospitals and I would just walk the halls and I would make kids smile. And then they started having all kinds of security and everything, and that became more and more difficult. So in the last 5-6 years, I would get like a pocket full of $2 bills, and I would walk the streets and I'd go into stores, and when there was some sort of an interaction with kids or whatever, I would give the kids, first of all, only with their parents there, only making sure, because some people said I was a freak, or So
it's
anyway,
such a shame that you can't do anything nice without, somebody saying, "Oh, it's creepy" or whatever.
I really didn't care, and I never had any bad karma from anybody except from my ex. But what can you do? So anyway, I have gone around and making kids smile every year. This past year, when I was very ill, what I would typically do is around the end of August, beginning of September, I would stop trimming my beard. And this year, I was in and out of the hospital, and so it was like last May or June that I had this trimmed, and it got longer and longer and longer, and made a lot of kids smile. So,
That's wonderful.
like your tree, I'm trying to decide what or if, and I'm looking at building my brand with my artwork, my fractal art, selling it on my clothing. And so in sort of anticipation of that, and I expect to be showing some of my artwork at Art Basel in Miami in December. So we may do some photography, just get some headshots and do some photography that will, so I can do some promotion in the fall and winter of Santa. So we'll see.
Great. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Well, this part of the show, we actually ask you some questions just to get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
I'm going to let Ken have the first question.
You've actually mentioned so many things already in the hour that you've been hanging with us, but is there a project that you might consider yourself a little bit more proud of, or that you're more than willing to pat yourself on the back for than some of the others?
I told you about the Dolphins, and that was a big one. The other one that is bigger and much less known was we did a show with National Geographic called Run for Your Life. We rented the dog track, one of the dog tracks down in Florida, and filmed them racing the greyhounds. And it was the most beautiful, spectacular. Those are amazing, amazing dogs. And the crazy part was that greyhounds at the time were being raised in a puppy mill and slaughtered if they weren't fast enough. And it was a horrible death. National Geographic also had put cameras underground in the puppy mills. And the show showed both the beauty that we did and the slaughter of the dogs. And it pushed the greyhound industry into committing and into starting no-kill shelters. Those no-kill shelters from greyhounds, and for years you used to see greyhounds all over the place. Everyone had a greyhound. But it spread to no-kill shelters for all of the pets around the world. And so if I had to pick two, it would be the dolphins and the dogs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really. I was going to ask you, what do you find inspiring?
Smiles. In a word, I'm inspired by a smile. I'm inspired by good deeds. I'm inspired by helping people. And I'm inspired by other people helping people.
Yeah.
You had mentioned, working with Peter Horton, Elle McPherson, working on the Olympics. Was there a project that you had ever worked on where you actually had to pinch yourself because you couldn't believe you might have been working with someone that you never thought in a million years you would have?
Not really. I mean, I worked with so many people, and first of all, I've never been, the social person. I could bump into who knows who on the street and never know it. So, did you know that? No, I don't know this. Do you know their song? I hear the song and I like it. I like it. If I don't, I don't. Don't try and embarrass me here. And so it was that kind of thing. I mean, the first person I ever directed was Cliff Robertson. Now,
wow.
Most of your audience has no idea who that is. But, most of the people that know Cliff have aged out of but it was, we were, company I was working with, we did all of the promotion and all of the film work for Covenant House. And we were doing commercials for Covenant House. And this was early in my career, just not long after that first Emmy. And we had to do some on-camera and voiceover with Cliff. And the director didn't show up. He was stuck somewhere on some other project. And he said, just do it. Okay. Sure, why not? So I did it.
I have a twofold question. One, Niners or Kansas City for the Super Bowl? Because we already talked about it earlier, me and Ken.
I was kind of going for Detroit. So much for that idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I I I gotta go with the voice. I love the love story that's going on there, and so I'm gonna ride that.
The Kelsey and Taylor Swift story there
Yeah,
for anybody that's living under a rock that doesn't know.
I'll be the Swiftie.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. And the twofold of that is, what's your favorite Super Bowl food?
I'm a wings guy.
Wings, yeah.
Give me my wings.
Yeah.
But let me just circle back a little bit to the Swiftie thing.
Yeah.
Is that of everyone that I have seen and been in touch with and that you know of, I think that she is an amazing woman, a powerful woman that does so much good, and I love the smiles that she pushes out there. So
Yeah.
my hats off to her. That's why I'm leaning that way.
There we go. There we go. Well, if we could hold for one moment, I'm going to bring Nicole in the kitchen because I think she might have a little something to tell us about the Super Bowl and food for this week. So let's roll that clip.
What's up, Ken and Blaze? It's been too long. I have one question. Are you ready for some football? I hope you are. Obviously, we have the biggest game of the year coming up this Sunday, and you're probably thinking, I want to treat myself to some wings. Do we have to go out for them? Heck no. Can we make them a little less indulgent feeling at home? Absolutely. So instead of doing your regular deep fry, butter, and hot sauce preparation, not that there's anything wrong with that, why don't we try doing a dry rub? What's a dry rub? It's taking some delicious herbs and spices and a little bit of flour and rubbing that into your chicken wings, letting it sit 30 minutes, maybe even overnight, and then air frying or baking them to crispy perfection. What are some of the benefits there? If you want to do a traditional wing and do paprika, cayenne, and go spicy, cool. Maybe you want to take on a different flavor. Maybe you want to do 5-spice. Maybe you want to do a garam masala. Maybe you want to do something else that's, I don't know, maybe you want to throw Parmesan, parsley, that kind of stuff in there. Go on and have at it. The options are limitless. Whatever wings you choose, eat, enjoy, move on. Ken and Blaze, back to you in the studio.
All right. Thank you, Nicole.
She
That
does
was
it.
good.
She does it every time.
week. And I'm hungry now though. So it's as
Yes.
usual. I'm always hungry when after her segments. So Nicole and I are actually getting together. So we're gonna spend some time together this week. So I'm excited to see her. She's coming out to Jersey. So we made some plans to get together. But all right. So back to you, Alan. Last question. Actually, Ken, I'm going to let you do the last question. I always do it. So you ask.
No. I'm not breaking tradition on this one.
You sure? You sure?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. So the question is, if you could give a piece of advice to someone that's just starting out in your industry, and I know you do so much, so let's maybe focus on the inventor side, the coming up with your own ideas and innovations. What piece of advice would you give them?
Ignore what other people say.
Yes.
Do you have time for a short little story?
Sure.
When we first started that little camera and we put it on the bobsled, we had mounted it under the bobsled to show the runners on the ice. And the engineer assigned to our group said they'll never use that shot. Okay, tell me why they won't use that shot. They'll never use it. Well, why won't they use it? Well, they never used it before. And four of us looked at each other, scratched our heads, and went, they were never able to get that shot. That's why they never used it. And the engineer never, ever got it. He never understood it. And it was just funny. So when you go out and you have an idea and you're going to do something new, inventive, or whatever, the best thing in the world is when they say no, ignore it. If there are rules, don't be afraid to break them. Do it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, listen, we're going to raise our glasses. So many amazing things that you shared with us today. So many, I feel like every time we speak, I learn anyway. And I love that. And I actually said to you recently that, you know, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I always want somebody else to share something with me, and so that I'm always constantly learning. And I know you feel the same way. So, Ken, how about you? Are you on that same food for thought, or, you know, what's your thoughts there?
No, I always like being the smartest person in the room, actually. No, I just no. If anything else, first off, it's been a pleasure to actually get to meet you and get to know you today, and just the incredible body of work that you have, and you know, getting to know your stance, like just wanting people to smile and just, you know, feel good. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
hear that a lot from people anymore either. Like, why do I do something? I want people to smile. Like, I mean, we've had a lot of great guests, and I think that's one of the first that anything like that has come out of anyone's mouth, and I'm really appreciative to hear that from you today.
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank
Here,
you.
here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
It's been fun. And Blaze, we have to get together IRL
Yes,
one of
definitely.
these days. And it's been, Ken, it's been a pleasure meeting you. And I hope our paths will cross, and let's try and do some projects together.
Yes, that
Absolutely.
would be
Yeah.
amazing. Would love that. Would love that. Well, here, here. Cheers to you. And until next time.
I'm always here for you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good one.
Have a good night.
Ah,
Wow. That was
yeah.
amazing. Like,
I told you it's like a masterclass.
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
just the amount of stuff he's done, like the again, just the innovation aspect of it. It's humbling, actually. It blew me away just listening to it.
Again, the you know, Mecca project didn't happen, but sometimes you meet people and they're put together for a reason, even though that
Yep.
one didn't work out. Like, you know, years have gone on, and I'm always watching what he's up to,
I
and
mean,
I
and
feel like it's the same. So,
he
you
brought it up,
know,
and who's to say that won't be a possibility down the road, you know?
100%. Listen, I had such a great week. I know you did too, Ken. And a great episode today.
Oh,
Go
absolutely.
KC is what we're saying. We're going KC.
I
We're on to
guess.
KC, so we'll see next week what happens. But yeah, we'll until next week. And thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Alan Teitel. And have a great week, everybody. Take care.
Take care.
You've just enjoyed the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour with Blaze and Ken.